Welcome back, everyone. We're diving deep today into the Christmas story,
Your Christmas story, yeah.
as told in the King James Bible.
Okay.
And we're going to be looking at it
Mm-hmm.
through this YouTube video that I found,
Okay.
which kind of like visually tells the story with the words on the screen.
Okay, great.
So,
Yeah.
obviously this is a story that
Right.
a lot of us know very well.
Yeah, very familiar.
But, as we've talked about before with this show,
Right.
there's always these little details, especially with biblical stories,
Mm.
that
Yeah.
kind of like go unnoticed
Right.
when you've heard it a million times.
Absolutely. Like
Yeah.
you said, these stories we're so familiar with, but
Right.
there's always something new to uncover.
Right. So we're going to start in the very beginning,
Okay.
and that is uh, the Annunciation.
All right.
So an angel appears to Mary,
Yeah.
who's a young woman. She's betrothed to Joseph
Right.
and tells her she's going to give birth to the Son of God.
Big news.
So,
Yeah.
that's an intense way to steer your morning.
Definitely not your average Tuesday, right?
So what is it about this scene
Yeah.
that makes it so important in this whole story?
Well, I think the Annunciation really sets the stage for everything that follows. You have this amazing collision between humanity, the human, and the divine.
Right.
Where ordinary life is just completely interrupted by this, like,
It's cosmic.
cosmic announcement. Yeah. And this is one of the big things that we see
Sure.
throughout the Christmas story, which is that God works through the unexpected, through
Right.
things that we wouldn't think possible.
And Mary's reaction to this is so human, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, she's afraid, she's confused,
Yeah.
she's questioning this
Yeah.
whole thing.
Yeah.
And she says to Gabriel, "How can this be, seeing I know not a man?"
Right.
And that's, I think, such a natural question to ask, given the circumstances. And it really emphasizes that this is a miracle,
Okay.
a miraculous conception.
Right. Because the idea of the virgin birth was that unique to Christianity at the time.
Well, not entirely. The idea of a virgin birth appears in other ancient myths and religions, but it was still a very audacious claim to make,
Yeah,
even in those times.
And it's interesting here how Gabriel kind of steps in with all these pretty intense explanations.
Right, right.
So, he says that, Jesus will be called the Son of the Highest.
Yeah.
He'll inherit David's throne and reign over an eternal kingdom.
Right. It's
That's a lot. Yeah.
it's heavy stuff.
Yeah. It seems like I don't know, it seems like God's like, I don't know, he's like pulling out all the stops here.
All the stops, yeah. This is a big deal.
Right, right.
And to further emphasize this idea of God's power at work, we have this parallel story of Elizabeth, who's Mary's cousin.
Yeah.
And even though she's old and she's barren, she conceives a son,
Right.
John the Baptist.
Son of the Baptist, yeah.
So this conception is also seen as miraculous.
Okay.
And it really foreshadows the significance of the child that Mary will bear.
Right. So both of these women
Yeah.
are kind of experiencing these really
Right.
unusual pregnancies at the time. And then when Mary visits Elizabeth,
Right.
the baby in Elizabeth's womb leaps.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that such a visceral image?
It really is. It's a very physical, tangible manifestation of, what's going on here.
What do you think about that detail? What do you think that means?
Well, it's a symbol, I think, of recognition. It's almost as if John the Baptist, even in the womb, is acknowledging the presence of Jesus.
Okay.
So it emphasizes that both of these pregnancies are divine. Right.
And they're connected.
Okay. So
Their destinies are kind of intertwined from the very beginning.
Gotcha. And it's interesting, the first time that Mary and Elizabeth meet, you have this
It's a miracle.
miraculous event. It's like it kind of sets a precedent for all the crazy things that are going to happen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like the first domino falling in a long line of dominoes.
Right. Okay. And then you have Mary's Song of Praise, the Magnificat.
Yeah, the Magnificat.
Which is, people sing it as like a hymn.
Right.
But it's a lot more than that. It's
very theological.
like a whole theological document, right?
Absolutely.
So, we hear about God's mercy, this overturning of hierarchies, the fulfillment of promises to Abraham and Israel. Can you kind of unpack some of that stuff for us?
Well, the Magnificat is this incredible declaration of faith.
And it really says a lot about God's nature
Okay.
and his purpose. And
Yeah.
and the interesting thing about this song is that Mary isn't just passively accepting this role.
Right.
She's actively praising God for choosing her,
Okay.
for using her as an instrument in
Yeah.
his plan of salvation. And this song actually foreshadows a lot of the things that
Yeah.
Jesus will do in his ministry,
Right.
which is, he will challenge the status quo.
Yeah.
He will uplift the humble. He will bring about change.
Right. So we have the miracle of the conception. We have Elizabeth's affirmation.
Yeah.
But then the story kind of shifts, right?
It does, yeah.
It goes from this divine
Yeah.
realm
Yeah.
to this human-like reality
Right.
of traveling to Bethlehem.
Yeah.
So what's the deal with that?
So this journey is prompted by Caesar Augustus. He decrees that there's going to be a census,
Okay.
and everyone has to go to their ancestral hometowns
Gotcha.
to register. So for Joseph, this means he has to travel to Bethlehem, right? Which is the city of David with Mary, who is, very pregnant at this point.
So imagine, like, traveling back then, especially in her condition.
Yeah.
Like, month pregnant, no car.
No, just rough roads, bumpy, dusty,
It's hard to even imagine, like, how...
Oh, it would have been incredibly arduous.
Yeah.
Especially for Mary.
Yeah. What do you think this journey tells us about who they are, like what they're committed to?
Well, I think it speaks volumes about their obedience and their faith.
Okay.
They would have been going through an incredibly difficult experience,
Right.
but they persevere.
Right.
They trust that God is guiding them every step of the way. This difficult journey really underscores their commitment to fulfilling prophecy, even when it means facing great personal hardship.
Yeah.
It's a testament to their courage and their unwavering belief in God's plan.
Okay. So they finally arrive in Bethlehem.
Yeah.
I imagine they're exhausted. Exhausted.
From the journey. And they can't even find a place to stay.
Right. The inn is full.
Yeah.
And they have to go to a stable.
Yeah. It's like the world is like really, really
It's like the world is conspiring against them.
making it difficult. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this whole no room at the inn, like that's one of those
Oh, yeah. It's
iconic lines from the Christmas story.
Right. And it emphasizes the humility of Jesus's birth.
Right.
The King of Kings.
Yeah.
Entering the world, not in a palace,
Yeah.
but in a humble stable, surrounded by animals.
Right.
It's a powerful juxtaposition, isn't it?
It's like this, I don't know, it's like
Okay.
the lowliness of the setting just makes what's about to happen even more
It amplifies
important. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a powerful contrast between earthly power and the true power of God,
Okay.
which is revealed in these unexpected places.
Right. And then we have this whole other group of characters. Yeah.
That enters the story.
Right.
Shepherds.
The shepherds.
So, they're out in the fields, tending their flocks at night.
Yeah.
They seem like pretty normal, everyday people.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
why are they so important to this story?
I think the shepherds represent the marginalized, the overlooked, the people that, society doesn't really pay attention to.
Right.
And their inclusion in this story is a really powerful statement about God's love and concern for all people, no matter what their social standing is.
So it's not just about the rich and the famous.
Exactly. It's for everyone.
Yeah.
God is overturning expectations by choosing them to be the first witnesses to Jesus's birth.
And the way they find out is pretty dramatic, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, an angel appears surrounded by this glorious light, and, they're terrified.
I mean, imagine that happening to you.
Oh.
Like in the middle of the night. So this angel, I'm assuming this is Gabriel again.
Well, the text doesn't specify the angel's name, but it's a common motif in biblical narratives.
Right.
These divine messengers appearing at important moments. And in this case, the angel's saying, good tidings of great joy.
Right.
This is a big moment. This is the arrival of the long-awaited Messiah.
Right. And the sign that he gives them.
Right.
Which is, you'll find a babe wrapped in swaddling clothes, lying in a manger.
Yeah.
That's so specific.
Very specific. It's like a divine treasure hunt.
Yeah. So, and it's interesting, the shepherds weren't scholars or religious leaders.
Right.
They were just
simple men
living ordinary lives.
Yeah.
And yet they're chosen to be like the first to receive this news.
Right. Which I think speaks to the universality of the Christmas message. It's for everyone, not just for the elite or the privileged.
Right. And their reaction is immediate, right? They go with haste.
Yeah, they don't hesitate.
To Bethlehem to see this baby.
They're eager to see this newborn king, and they represent, I think, the first believers.
Right.
The ones who embrace this message of hope and salvation.
And to make it even more awesome, you have a multitude of heavenly hosts.
The heavenly hosts,
showing up, praising God, singing glory to God in the highest, and on earth, peace, goodwill toward men.
It's an incredible scene, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like heaven and earth are like converging.
Right, celebrating the birth of Jesus.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this whole thing is like so full of like symbolism.
Oh yeah, it's rich
or
with
deep meaning,
theological depth.
And it's clear that the birth of Jesus is more than just like a historical event, like a turning point in human history.
It's pivotal.
Yeah. But the shepherds aren't the only ones.
No, they're not.
Who are drawn to the newborn king. Right?
Yeah. We have another group of visitors, and these are much more mysterious, the wise men from the east.
Yeah.
And they've traveled a great distance following a star to find the king of the Jews.
Okay. So these wise men.
Yeah.
Who do you think they were? Like, what's their...
That's a good question. They were likely astrologers or scholars, and they represent this idea that Jesus' birth isn't just a local event. It has global implications. People from all over are drawn to this. Like the stars themselves are pointing to this momentous event.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
So they've set out on this journey to find the king.
Yeah. A long and arduous journey.
Yeah, and it's interesting that they would, being from a totally different culture and religion, like, what do you think made them...
Yeah, what motivated them to undertake this journey?
Yeah.
Well, I think it speaks to a universal longing.
Okay.
A desire for something more, a savior, a source of hope and meaning. And maybe they saw something in the stars, some kind of sign of something extraordinary, something beyond their understanding.
Right.
The fact that they traveled such a great distance shows how deeply they were searching for truth, how much they revere the divine.
And then when they show up in Jerusalem, it kind of causes problems.
It causes a bit of a stir. Herod, the king, he's not too happy about the possibility of arrival.
Yeah. So we see the story take on this political...
Oh, yeah. Definitely a political dimension here.
Dimension, right.
Yeah.
So Herod, I mean, he wasn't exactly known for being, like, the nicest guy, right?
Well, he was known for his ruthlessness and paranoia. He represents the forces of darkness that often oppose God's plan. And his reaction to the wise men, fear and cunning. He wants to eliminate any threat to his power, even if it's a baby.
Yeah. And he even tries to trick them into telling him where Jesus is.
Yeah.
So that he can supposedly like worship him. It's scary, right? Like, I mean,
it's chilling. A reminder of the dangers that Jesus faces even as a baby.
Right. So what do you think this whole conflict between Herod and the wise men, like, what does that tell us?
It highlights the political and religious tensions of that time.
Okay.
The birth of Jesus is not just a personal or spiritual event.
Okay.
It has political implications. It challenges the existing power structures.
So the Christmas story, like from the very beginning,
from the beginning,
is not just this like happy, feel-good...
Bro, it's not sentimental.
Sentimental story.
Yeah, it's real. It's intertwined with power struggles and oppression and resistance.
Okay. Luckily, for Jesus, the wise men are warned in a dream not to go back to Herod.
Right.
So they go home a different way and kind of outsmart him.
Outsmarted him,
So it's another example, I guess, of
divine intervention, God protecting Jesus.
Yeah, right. So the wise men go home.
Yeah.
But then Joseph gets his own message from an angel.
Yeah, he does.
And it seems like dreams in this story are a big deal, right? It's often how God...
Right. Dreams were often seen as a way for God to communicate with people in biblical times.
Okay.
And the dream warnings to Joseph really emphasize how dangerous the situation is.
Okay.
And also highlight Joseph's role as protector and guardian of Jesus.
He's the earthly father.
The earthly father, yeah.
But he's been given this sacred duty.
Entrusted with the care of the Son of God.
Yeah. So he takes Mary and Jesus, and they flee to Egypt in the middle of the night.
Right.
And that's, I mean, that must have been pretty intense, right?
It would have been terrifying.
Yeah. To have just escaped like that.
To flee their home, everything they knew,
Yeah. So the flight to Egypt, like that's
a pivotal event,
that's a big deal, right?
Yeah, definitely. Because, it echoes the exodus of the Israelites from Egypt, which draws a parallel between Jesus and Moses. These divinely appointed liberators.
Right. But then, Herod, he's angry.
Oh, yeah. He's furious.
That the wise men didn't do what he asked.
Yeah.
So he unleashes his fury on babies.
The innocent.
Yeah, the massacre of the innocents.
Yeah.
And that's probably...
That's one of the most disturbing parts of the story.
Parts of the Christmas story, definitely. So it's like this...
It's a reminder of the brutality and darkness that often surround moments of light and hope.
Okay.
It shows how far those in power will go to maintain their control.
Yeah.
But it also, I think, foreshadows the future suffering of Jesus.
Right. So it's a reminder.
It's a sobering reminder.
That the path to salvation is not like easy.
It's not a walk in the park.
Or peaceful. Right. So they find refuge in Egypt.
Right.
And then Herod dies.
Yeah.
And an angel appears to Joseph again.
Yeah.
And says, it's okay, you can go back to Israel.
Right.
And you'd think
that would be the end of it.
That would be the end of it.
Yeah.
They could finally relax.
Right.
But there's another twist.
There's another twist.
Yeah.
So what happens?
Well, Joseph learns that Archelaus,
okay,
Herod's son, is now ruling Judea.
Right.
And he's just as bad as his father.
Oh, no. So what does he do? So he gets another dream warning and decides to settle in Galilee instead.
Okay.
In a town called Nazareth.
So these dreams are like his...
It's like a divine GPS.
GPS, yeah.
Guiding them through dangerous territory.
Yeah. It's like, even though there's all this chaos and uncertainty, there's still...
God's plan is like...
full plan. So they end up in Nazareth.
Yeah.
And this fulfills a prophecy, right?
It does. The prophecy that Jesus would be called a Nazarene.
Oh, wow. So this little detail.
Right. Seems insignificant,
yeah,
but it's all part of this intricate tapestry of the Christmas narrative.
Okay.
Every event, every location, every name has meaning.
So Nazareth.
Nazareth.
But what's so special about Nazareth?
Well, that's the interesting thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like a place that would produce a Messiah.
Yeah, it was pretty obscure.
Kind of looked down on, right?
Yeah. Definitely.
And that's what makes it so interesting.
Yeah.
Jesus, the Son of God, doesn't come from a place of power or wealth. He comes from the margins.
Right.
From a place that most people would overlook.
So God.
It's a powerful reminder that God often works in unexpected ways.
Okay.
Using the ordinary
to
accomplish the extraordinary.
So Jesus growing up in Nazareth, like, that sets the stage for his message of humility.
Humility, service, reaching out to the marginalized.
And it challenges, like, how we normally think about power and authority.
It does. It subverts our expectations.
Right. So even his, like, geographical location becomes part of...
It's all part of the message. It's all woven together.
Right. But what does Nazarene actually mean?
Well, Nazarene has a few layers of meaning.
Okay.
On the one hand, it just identifies where Jesus is from.
Okay.
But it also might connect to the Hebrew word netzer, which means branch.
Okay.
And that ties back to prophecies about a messianic figure coming from the line of David.
So he's both from Nazareth.
Yeah.
And he's fulfilling the prophecy.
Right. It's a paradox, isn't it?
It's like his identity is like shrouded in all this mystery.
He's the ordinary boy from Nazareth.
Yeah.
And the extraordinary Son of God.
Yeah. It's mind-blowing how all these details like tie together.
It is. It's a reminder that even in the most ordinary of circumstances, God's plan is unfolding.
Right. So we've covered a lot. We've talked about angels.
We have.
A miraculous birth.
Yeah.
a dangerous journey,
political intrigue, escapes,
biblical massacre, and then a return.
this seemingly insignificant massacre.
And then a return.
And then a return.
Seemingly
Yeah,
insignificant.
we'll fix town.
Yeah.
So, I
Yeah.
mean, what does it all mean? That's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah. Like, what are the big takeaways?
The key takeaways
Yeah.
from this deep dive into the Christmas story.
Yeah.
Well, I think one of the biggest takeaways is that this story is so much more than just a heartwarming tale of a baby in a manger.
Right.
It's a story that's deeply rooted in history and theology and the human condition.
Yeah.
It's a story about God's intervention in human affairs, about the clash between good and evil, light and darkness.
And it's interesting how, even though this story took place like 2,000 years ago, it still feels so relevant today.
It does, doesn't it?
Like the themes are so universal.
Absolutely. I mean, we're still dealing with the same issues of power and oppression, hope and despair, love and loss.
Right. So we left off with Mary, Joseph, and Jesus fleeing to Egypt.
Escaping Herod's wrath.
Yeah. So they're on the run. Yeah. They're in a foreign land.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think their life was like?
It must have been incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine being refugees in a foreign country with a newborn baby.
Yeah.
They probably faced language barriers, cultural differences, economic hardship.
And the fact that, Herod died.
Right.
I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean that.
No, it doesn't mean they're safe.
They're safe.
Right.
Like his
legacy of tyranny lived on.
Yeah. So what happens after Herod dies? Do they go back?
Well, an angel appears to Joseph again in a dream.
Okay.
And tells him that it's safe to return to the land of Israel.
Okay, so you'd think that would be the end of the story, right?
Right.
Like they can go back home.
Yeah. Happy ending.
Everything's fine.
Right.
But
there's a twist.
There's a twist.
Yeah, there always is.
Yeah.
Joseph finds out that Archelaus, Herod's son, is now ruling Judea.
Okay.
And he's just as brutal as his father.
So they can't go back to Judea?
Not to Judea, no.
What do?
So Joseph, guided by another dream, decides to settle in Galilee instead.
Okay.
In a town called Nazareth.
So they end up in Nazareth because of, I guess, divine intervention.
Exactly. God is still directing their steps, protecting them, leading them to where they need to be.
And Nazareth, it doesn't seem like a place that would...
No, it doesn't, does it?
Just Messiah.
It was a small, insignificant town, kind of looked down upon by the rest of Israel.
So God is choosing...
Again, God is working through the unexpected.
To work through the unexpected. Yeah. Right. But what's the significance of them ending up in Nazareth? Like, how does that...
Well, it fulfills a prophecy.
Okay.
The prophecy that Jesus would be called a Nazarene.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So even their geographical location...
It's all part of the plan.
Is part of this, divine plan.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Right. So what does Nazarene mean?
Well, it has a few layers of meaning.
Okay.
On a basic level, it simply identifies where Jesus is from.
Okay.
But it also might connect to the Hebrew word netzer, which means branch.
Okay.
And that ties back to prophecies about a messianic figure springing forth from the lineage of David.
So it's both like a geographical designation and like this
fulfillment of prophecy.
Fulfillment of prophecy.
Yeah. It's kind of like
it's mind blowing.
Yeah.
How all this stuff connects.
It really is. The more you dig into the Christmas story,
the
more you realize how intricate and interconnected it all is.
Right. So Jesus grows up in Nazareth, this seemingly insignificant town.
Yeah.
But it's actually...
But it shapes him.
Shaping him.
It shapes his identity, his mission.
Right. It's like, it's almost...
It's like a hidden training ground.
Yeah.
Preparing him for what's to come.
Yeah. Okay, so we're kind of at this point in the story where Jesus is going to be growing up in Nazareth.
Those hidden years.
Yeah. And we don't know a lot.
No, we don't. The Bible doesn't give us a lot of detail.
That period of his life.
But I think it's important to remember that those years were crucial to his development as a
Okay.
human being
Okay.
and as the Messiah.
Right. It's where he learned how to be human.
He experienced the joys and sorrows of everyday life.
Right.
He developed relationships.
Yeah.
He learned about his Jewish heritage.
So even though the Bible doesn't give us
It is still a significant part.
a lot of details about that time, it's
Yeah.
still really important, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So as we kind of wrap up this part of our deep dive, I'm curious, like, how do you think the Christmas story can inspire us today?
Well, I think the Christmas story offers us a message of hope, even in the midst of darkness.
Right. Like, no matter what we're going through,
what challenges we face, there's always a reason to believe that something beautiful and transformative can emerge.
It's like, even when
things seem impossible,
there's always hope.
There's always hope.
Yeah.
Right. And the love.
The love. The Christmas story.
In the Christmas story.
Is a testament to the boundless love of God.
Right.
The love so profound that he sent his own son into the world.
Right.
Not as a conquering king.
Right.
But as a vulnerable baby.
Yeah.
Born in humble circumstances.
It's a love that...
It's a love that defies logic.
Yeah.
That transcends boundaries. That reaches out to all of us. No matter what.
No matter what.
Yeah. No matter our flaws, our failures, our mistakes.
And the Christmas story also reminds us, like, how...
It reminds us of the power of faith.
Important faith is.
Yeah. Mary's faith.
Right.
Joseph's faith.
Right.
The shepherd's faith.
Yeah.
The wise men's faith.
Yeah.
All of these characters demonstrate the transformative power of belief.
Okay.
The courage to trust in something beyond ourselves.
Even when, like, the world is...
Even when the world seems to be falling apart.
Falling apart around us. So the Christmas story...
is about hope.
Hope.
It's about love.
Love.
And it's about...
faith.
Faith.
Yeah.
And even though it's, an ancient story...
Yeah.
It still
speaks to us today.
It speaks to us today.
Yeah.
It's timeless.
Timeless, yeah. So we've gone from these angelic announcements to a very humble birth in Bethlehem.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen, escapes, tragic events.
Yeah.
And now we're back.
We're back in Nazareth.
Where Jesus is going to spend his childhood.
His formative years.
Yeah. And this kind of feels like a pause, doesn't it?
A pause in the story, right?
Like a little bit of normalcy before
things get really crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But do you think that even though it's kind of quiet in Nazareth, do you think that this period
I think it's crucial.
Is still important?
Yeah. It's essential to understanding the whole Christmas story.
So even though it's an ordinary town, like it's still part of shaping who he is.
Nazareth plays a key role.
Okay.
In his identity and his mission.
So he learned
That's about life.
About life there.
Yeah.
Okay.
He experiences joy, sorrow. All of the things that make us human.
And he's developing his connection to
his Jewish heritage.
His heritage.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's almost like a
hidden training ground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like getting him ready,
preparing him,
for what's to come.
For the extraordinary.
Right. And it's interesting how, he's the Son of God.
Right.
He's a Messiah.
Yeah.
And yet he's spending this time.
But he's not in a palace.
Not in a palace.
He's not in a temple.
Not in a temple.
He's in a village. With ordinary people.
Humble village.
Yeah.
So it's
that contrast is powerful.
The opposite of
that's intentional.
What we would expect.
Yeah. The Christmas story constantly challenges our ideas about power and authority.
So even where he's from is part of
the message.
The message.
Yeah.
Right. It's this message of humility,
service, reaching out to those on the margins.
Yeah. And it's
God working through the unexpected.
Challenging us to see like the divine in the everyday things.
Yeah. Finding the extraordinary in the ordinary.
Yeah. Okay, so we've uncovered all these fascinating details about the Christmas story. We've talked about the history, the theology, the symbolism.
Simple meaning.
But as we kind of wrap up our deep dive, I'm wondering, like, what's the lasting impact of this story? Like, why does this story
why does it still resonate with us today?
Resonate with people after
That's a great question.
So many centuries.
And I think the answer lies in those timeless themes.
Okay.
It's a story of hope.
Right.
In a world that's often filled with darkness and despair.
Yeah.
The Christmas story offers a glimmer of light, a promise of redemption, a belief that even in the bleakest of circumstances, something beautiful and transformative can emerge.
So it's like even when we're surrounded by darkness,
there's still
a reason to believe.
Light.
Yeah, there's still hope.
Yeah. And
it's also a story about love.
The love.
God's love for humanity.
All right. A love so
profound that he sent his own son